generations to come.
Welcome to another edition of the TDN Writers Room podcast. My name is Bill Finley. I'm a correspondent for the TDN, and I also co-host the Down the Stretch radio show on Sirius XM Radio with Dave Johnson.
I am Randy Moss with NBC Sports and the Beyer Speed Figure team.
Zoe Cadman with First TV and First Racing. Doodle has made an appearance there, sitting by the front door. So, where's Lucy?
She's on the floor below me. Never mind.
Well, guys, let's get right into it. There certainly was a lot to talk about last weekend with fabulous racing at Saratoga, 4 grade ones on the card and a 5th stakes race. Also had the Clement L. Hirsch out at Del Mar. We're not going to have time to touch on all of them. So I picked out a couple races that I thought we really should concentrate on. And our friends West Point Stable and also DJ Stable, which the general manager is John Green, they got a pretty good horse in Ewing in here. And Randy, last week you gave a lot of stats about how these very fast horses don't necessarily pan out as 3-year-olds, which could be the case with him. But for now, and just in the moment, he runs against Obliteration, who looked fantastic on paper, was 2-5, broke a step slow, and had no problem beating this horse. Will he win the Hopeful? Yeah, probably. Will he win the Breeders' Cup Juvenile? We don't know. But right now, I get excited about these horses, even though I do understand what you're saying about how it's the horses that mature at different times are the ones that are usually going to win the Kentucky Derby. But Randy, what'd you think?
Well, when I pointed out the horses that don't tend to do so well as their 2-year-old and 3-year-old campaigns continue last week, I was talking about horses that ran 100 Beyer speed figures or higher, which definitely does not apply to the Saratoga Special. But I don't want to start out being Debbie Downer here, so let's let Zoe kick off the Saratoga Special.
I'm afraid I have the same opinion. So it wasn't anything spectacular in my book. I don't have the final time in front of me. I know they went the last 16 in 7.03 seconds, which is crawling. Ewing's a pretty horse to look at. Listen, he's the greatest stakes winner. He's a good horse. Did he blow my socks off? No. Did Obliteration blow my socks off? No. Jose aboard Ewing kind of drifted the turn a little bit, which somehow Obliteration seemed to have got away from Pratt as well, and he went really wide. I was a little bit excited to see Obliteration just trying to finish a little bit more, because it looks like he's been going slower late at the end of his races. So at least he was trying to gain some ground after losing so much on the turn. But for me, it wasn't a race to get totally excited about. Now, if I own Ewing, and he's a graded stakes winner,
sure,
and you got Griffin Johnson. Yeah, awesome. Well done, guys. Yeah. I don't own a graded stakes winner. So you win a graded stakes at Saratoga, I'm not going to knock you. So carry on. But does this look like a superstar race moving forward? I'd have to say no.
Yeah. Boy, you guys aren't easy to satisfy.
Well, look, I mean, I would love to own the horse, and yep, I think they should be super excited at winning the Saratoga Special. But I think the fact is, if you were airlifted into Saratoga and you didn't know anything about the horses, didn't know anything about their pedigrees, connections, past records, or anything, and you just watched the Saratoga Special and analyzed it compared to the other races that day, you would come away from that race thinking that this horse is hardly a legitimate candidate for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile.
Okay.
Because of how slow he finished. Beyer speed figure 71.
Wow, I didn't realize it was that.
And that's
low.
A legitimate 71. A half hour earlier, a maiden race for 2-year-olds went a half second faster, 5 Beyer points faster. In the 5th race, a maiden race for fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and up, sprint, went 24 Beyer points faster. The race after that, 2-year-old filly maiden race, went 1 point faster than the Saratoga Special. I mean, the race fell apart. From the start, Obliteration was trying to get out pretty badly, all the way down the backside. Something wasn't quite copacetic with him compared to the way he ran in his debut. Hopefully that's not a sign that there's anything wrong, and he'll bounce back from that. And look, they're 2-year-olds. They're lightly raced. They're improving. Not saying that they won't turn out to be Kentucky Derby horses, but just based on this race, you can't say that.
All right. Well, you make some salient points there, my friends. Let's move on to the Fourstardave. We're going to talk a little bit later in the show to the trainer of the winner, Deterministic Miguel Clement. Got his second grade one win in there with the same horse. The horse also won the Manhattan. The Manhattan before that. I tell you, this horse has really come around, but now it's my turn to be a Debbie Downer. What happened to Johannes? And is it just that West Coast turf horses just don't seem to run when they come east? I have no idea why that would be, but this is the most consistent, solid grass horse in the country. He was ninth at 9-5 as Deterministic got the win. And I think right now he's probably in the driver's seat for an Eclipse Award, Deterministic.
If you want to know what happened to Johannes, follow from the start to about the midway point of the first turn. He didn't break, steadied, and before you know it, he's last going around the first turn, which is hardly the typical recipe for Johannes. So to me, that race is a throw out, especially since the Breeders' Cup Mile is back at Del Mar. Let's see how he does when he gets back to California. Deterministic, I love the fact that he was nice and relaxed. He still didn't get as much credit as he deserves. He went off at 9-2, but he's now won 5 out of his last 6 races on turf. And he's probably right now, I guess, the top ranked miler on turf in the U.S. Europeans are still going to be the horse to beat when you get to the Breeders' Cup. They've won 5 out of the last 7 miles, but at least it's not as bad as the turf won 1.5 miles, where the Euros have won 9 out of the last 10. So, nice horse, Zoe.
Deterministic is a dude. I've been watching him since he was a 2-year-old, watching him work for Christoph, and really cool to see Miguel now winning grade 1s with him. He's tactical. He's going to absolutely suit Del Mar down to a T because he is so tactical, and he's got a tactical rider. Him and Kendrick Carmouche just mesh together. Kendrick thinks he's a dude, and Deterministic is a dude. So I think they're a perfect match together. He's a really fun, exciting horse to watch. Johannes put a line through it. And, it's a shame because that's the first horse Tim Yakteen's ever run at Saratoga. And Tim is a very conservative trainer. You don't see Tim putting horses on planes and running horses in the wrong spots. That horse was in the right spot. It just wasn't his day, didn't have a good trip. He will bounce back. He could not possibly have looked any better in the paddock. Fit, dappled, ready to go. Tim had him on point to run his A game. And it's not the shipping, because when he ran at Churchill, he didn't get a great trip either.
The big race of the day, of course, was the Whitney with an all-star cast: Fierceness, Sierra Leone, White Abarrio, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Sierra Leone was 1 for his last 7 coming in. The one win, though, was couldn't be any more important, the Breeders' Cup Classic. Most people, at least the bettors, preferred Fierceness, who was sort of has a rivalry with Sierra Leone. So the end result is Sierra Leone wins. It was interesting the tactics they used. Chad Brown used a rabbit in this race to help set things up for Sierra Leone, and a horse by the name of something or other that I can't remember.
Contrary thinking, yeah.
Okay, contrary. And then this big long shot, Mama's Gold, was in the race as well. So you say, okay, well, they just set a blazing fast pace, set it up perfectly for Sierra Leone. Well, not necessarily. They went 23-4 and 47. It's not like they went, 46 into the half. I just think he had his game face on today, and he was able to run down the competition in a day where Fierceness had a absolutely perfect trip in third early behind those 2 speedballs, and then really kind of just went backwards in the stretch to finish 5th. So Sierra Leone back on the winning track. He's going next in the Jockey Club Gold Cup, where he might meet, or he's planning to meet, Mindframe. That's a race I'd pay to go see.
Yeah. Look, I was very disappointed in Fierceness. I said last week, I loved him in this spot. I loved him at the 7/8 pole. I loved him with 6 furlongs to go, 5, 4, 3. I loved him at the quarter pole. He got the perfect trip sitting behind the two rabbits, basically the two speed horses. He was sitting 6, 7 lengths behind them. Perfect spot. He was going to get the jump on Sierra Leone. He did get the jump on Sierra Leone. He took a clear lead at the quarter pole and then emptied out. Yeah. He went his last half mile in right at 50 seconds. Wow. He just had nothing. He had nothing when those horses ran up to him. And I was very disappointed in that, but all credit to Sierra Leone. He's the way Zoe would describe it, he was the dude.
Yeah, he really was. He ran a huge race. And what a cool horse he is. He's had 12 starts over 2 years, never worse than third in any one of his starts. Earnings now, I think, $6.8 million. He's already won the Breeders' Cup at Del Mar. So last year, I looked up the fractions for last year, the Breeders' Cup Classic that he won. 22-4, 44-4, 109-2, 135 compared to what he just ran in 23-4, 47, 111-2. Randy's shaking his head because that's obviously the wrong timing because it's not his timing
It was
that
still
he likes
fast.
to use.
It was still fast.
It's still fast. So I'm just going to use that because that's all I have in front of me, Mr. Rabbit.
Yeah, the Del Mar fractions are again wrong. And badly wrong, but it was fast.
Yeah, it's still fast. But it just goes to show you that while they didn't go blazingly fast at Saratoga, it was fast for Saratoga, but he managed to close. I thought Highland Falls ran a blinder, an absolute blinder. Brad Cox extremely happy with him. So maybe he's going to show up big towards the end of the year. But as far as fierceness, I don't know. Maybe he got a headache at the quarter pole. I don't know.
Well, if Sierra Leone is a dude, is Seismic Beauty a dudette?
Yeah.
Very nice addition of the Clement Hirsch out at Del Mar over the weekend. And you don't think of Bob Baffert necessarily having a barn full of older fillies, but he's got the real. What's that?
Adair Manor.
Oh, okay. Well, he doesn't have a lot of them anyways. Wise guy.
Cavallari.
Okay. All right. So Bob Baffert, whose specialty is older fillies and mares, did it again on Saturday with a very nice horse by the name of Seismic Beauty. She got a 110 buyer in there. Very good ride from the inside by Juan Hernandez. And we'll be talking about this, I think, a little bit later in the show. A 110 buyer. One of the things that was curious to me, this was a race where Dick Mandel was going to find out if this horse belonged in the Breeders' Cup Distaff or the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint. She ran very well, as a matter of fact, but I don't know why she was so far back early. Randy, you're shaking your head. What was that? She had the tactical speed to be right up there with anybody.
That's what I thought. It didn't look like she broke that badly. I mean, she was 3 wide around the first turn, but I mean, who would have expected she'd be 6 lengths off the pace, basically last? She was still like 4.5, 5 lengths off the pace at the quarter pole.
Yeah.
Under a ride. And I mean, what did you think about that, Zoe?
I think there must be something not quite right. I know she didn't get the best of trips there at Los Al either, but she should have won that. Well, okay, maybe she shouldn't because that was a really good filly that beat her. But she's not quite the same as she should have been dragging Kazushi. Regardless of what kind of trip she was going to get, she should have been making her own trip and bending him in half to be closer to the pace. And she wasn't.
But looking ahead, right, I can make a case that she is the second best contender in America for the Breeders' Cup Distaff behind Seismic Beauty. And I could even make the case that maybe she could be rated ahead of Seismic Beauty. I mean, she was last, basically. She was 4.5, 5 lengths back, turning for home. She runs the last quarter in 24-4. She was really reaching out toward the end. You would think from her pedigree, Omaha Beach out of a Victory Gallop mare, distance would be no problem. And she certainly looked as if an extra 16th of a mile would be no problem. She got a buyer speed figure of 107, finishing second behind Seismic Beauty, who had everything her own way on the front end. Look, right now you've got on the East Coast, you've got the Personal Ensign coming up, okay? And you've got Torpedo Anna. And you've got Chad Brown's pair of Randomized and Raging Sea. And you've got Dorth Vader. And you've got Leslie's Rose. All of those horses on the East Coast, to me, right behind Seismic Beauty, Copion, Ricci, and Cavalieri, who I texted with Bob Baffert this morning. She hasn't worked since the Beholder Mile, but he says she's still a legitimate candidate for the Breeders' Cup Distaff. Look, it's all about the West Coast fillies and mares, I think. And it just happens that the Breeders' Cup is at Del Mar.
And knowing Mandela, I'm sure his instructions to Kazuchi were get her to relax. Like, he's so patient, and they've worked very hard with her in the mornings as well, just to get her off of horses and have her relax, because she's kind of a beastly filly in the mornings as well. Jessica Pfeiffer gets on her every day. And he was probably very happy with how far back she was, if I'm being completely honest. Just to get her into that mind frame more than anything.
Bottom line, I think a good litmus test for East versus West. The fourth place finisher in the Clement Hirsch was Royal Spa. In her last start, she was second, 3 lengths behind Torpedo Anna. In the Clement Hirsch, she was beaten 8 1/4 lengths and couldn't keep up with the top 3 when they really started running.
Guys, let's talk about bad officiating, if you might. It's something that is plaguing the sport right now. And Randy, I know you were talking about this before we went on the air. There was the DQ in the Hall of Fame stakes where they took down Zulu Kingdom was as bad a call as you can ever see. And it's almost as bad as the one where they took down the wrong horse a couple of years ago, and they refused to admit it. No. We took down the right horse. You said you saw some bad calls at Del Mar as well, but the stewards representing the NYRA tracks. Now, these aren't all NYRA employees. And the steward that represents the New York State Gaming Commission, Braulio Baeza Jr., is the most powerful of the bunch. But I'm okay using the word incompetent. And they proved it again. 100 people could watch this replay of this race, and nobody but those 3 people would say this horse should have come down. And bumped very lightly with another horse that really wasn't going anywhere at the time. You just shake your head. Like, are you watching the same race that I'm watching?
It was bad. I have not spoken to one person, not one person, maybe Joel Rosario, but I've not spoken to Joel, who thinks that was the right call. Going into the first turn, it looked like Joel had kind of nowhere to go and was getting run off with, and he came in, bumped the horse right next to him. He was on the eventual winner, Luther, bumped whoever was right next to him, and Pratt was nowhere near him on the far outside. Now, looking at the drone shot, it looks a little bit worse, but it wasn't Pratt. It was the inside horse coming in, and the stewards didn't put an inquiry up. It was a claim of foul that got the ball started.
Look, and there were a couple of Del Mar, one 2 weeks ago, one last week. There were highly questionable disqualifications, and Larry Colmus had to go online and explain both of them to the fans. The poor Armando Ayuso, I don't know him, but he was victimized by both of those. They took him down. I think they got a vendetta against Ayuso.
Wow.
But that was so. Look, we talked about Kentucky stewarding. I mean, in the Kentucky Dirt, my gosh, what really needs to be done? There are billions of dollars bet on this game. If this were trading on the New York Stock Exchange or whatever, they wouldn't stand for this. There's got to be transparency, and there's not anywhere. I mean, it's considered to be a huge step in the right direction when Larry Colmus can explain the disqualifications to the fans, and by saying that it's a majority decision. You don't get that anywhere else. Even that, a majority decision. We should know the names of the stewards that voted for disqualification, the name of the steward that didn't, and they should have written explanations after every disqualification, why I voted for the DQ, why I opposed the DQ. It should be 100% transparent, and it's anything but in American racing.
They've got cameras in the stewards' room in England. You can listen in.
Oh, Hong Kong? It's different elsewhere. It needs to be that way in the U.S.
The TDN Writers Room is brought to you by Keeneland, and what a Saturday it was for Keeneland September graduates. They won 4 Grade 1 stakes on Saturday. We'll lead off with Kilwin, who after stumbling at the start won the Grade 1 test. Deterministic won the Grade 1 Fourstardave. We'll hear from Miguel Clement a little bit later on. World Beater won the Grade 1 Saratoga Derby, and Seismic Beauty won the Grade 1 Clement Hirsch. But there was more. Promising young TDN rising star Ewing also took down the Grade 2 Saratoga Special. Plus, I mean, could there really be any more? 3 September sales graduates became TDN rising stars. There was the cleverly named Ted Noffey, Ornalaya, and Blackout Time. This year's September sale runs from September the 8th through the 20th.
It all comes down to this.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.
The moment that defines the year, when the world's most influential buyers gather, and every decision, every bid, every opportunity shapes the future. At a marketplace that brings the thoroughbred world together, and where futures are forged, because every moment matters. At the World's Yearling Sale, Keeneland, September.
The fastest horse of the week is brought to you this week by Life is Good, high up on that list of fast sires at One Star Farm. And we got some good news on the Life is Good front. On Monday night, the first night of Fasig-Tipton's 104th annual Saratoga sale, a Life is Good colt, a half-brother to 2 graded winners, sold to Spendthrift Farm for $550,000. And the very next yearling into the ring was another Life is Good. This one a filly out of Gulfstream Park Oaks winner Coach Rocks. And she also sold for $550,000. Life is Good is to date into Mischief's fastest son, with 9 triple-digit Beyer speed figures as a racehorse. And he's out of the gate as quickly as a stallion as he used to be as a runner. And you can watch for more of Life is Good's yearlings coming up at Keeneland, September. Now, the fastest horse of the week, the aforementioned Seismic Beauty, and that 110 Beyer speed figure in the Clement Hirsch at Del Mar, but only by a nose, because as we mentioned, it was a 109 Beyer speed figure in the Whitney Stakes that almost got the job done. But Clement Hirsch winner, Seismic Beauty, our fastest horse of the week.
And welcome in now the Gainesway guest of the week is none other than Miguel Clement, one of the hottest trainers, not just in New York, but in the entire country. Miguel, welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right. So I'm looking at your statistics this morning, and you're 26 for 115. You've won 4 graded stakes races, 2 grade ones, winning at a rate of 23%. Now, I can't say that this is a big surprise because obviously when your father passed away, he left you behind a barn full of good horses. You learned from him, who is one of the best trainers we've seen in New York over the last many years. You were in the Darley Flying Start program. So you had a great education, and I'm sure you couldn't have been better prepared to take over the role after your father passed away. But has this even exceeded your expectations, how well things have been going?
Perhaps, but the stable's in great form, and it's the same team, and just trying our best, you know.
So your most recent grade one, obviously Saturday at Saratoga with Deterministic, who just keeps on keeping on. In the Fourstardave, he rated just off the pace this time and was every bit as effective. Given his versatility and the fact that he's clicking on all cylinders right now, I mean, what do you plot for him between now and the Breeders' Cup Mile at Del Mar, assuming that's the ultimate target?
That is the ultimate target. The first and foremost, we have to see the way he comes out of it. You know, his energy, his weight, the way he's moving. He came out of it sound. Let's just see how long that performance took out of him, how much it took out of him, because he'll guide us the right way. Your most logical options are either the Woodbine Mile or the Grade 1 at Keeneland. Those are the 2 most exciting races at a mile between here and the Breeders' Cup Mile. And if he's able to win a 3rd Grade 1, maybe he's got the division on lockdown before even the Breeders' Cup, which would be neat.
Miguel, can you take me through the emotions of the Manhattan win with Deterministic, just like days after your father's passing? Because this was your first Grade 1 win ever. You literally just taken over the reins. It had to be just, I can't even begin to imagine how you guys were feeling. And to have him win on that day must have been incredible. Like Christoph was just looking down, still such a wonderful presence.
Yeah, it was overwhelming, to say the least. I started the week as a winless trainer and ended the week as a Grade 1 winning trainer. So there was a lot going on that week. That was great. It was very rewarding. The stable, we ran 3 in the race. You know, it was Thoroughbred and Deterministic in the stretch, 2 stable favorites duking it out. And it was very meaningful for many, many, many reasons. And it was a big welcome distraction for both the stable and family. So very grateful for that.
And Miguel, you have a chance this Saturday to add to your totals. Farbridge in the Sword Dancer. You got to deal with Charlie Appleby, who's got a couple horses in there. But right now, he looks to be probably as good as any American turf horse around. And he's won 3 of his last 4. And the only time he got beat was by his stablemate, Deterministic. What are your thoughts about Farbridge in the Sword Dancer?
He's top class. He's the best turf stayer in the country. He's doing great. He loves it here at Saratoga. He's never missed an opportunity to run. We never ducked anybody. He runs in the best turf staying races there in the country. And it's a shame the Man of War is no longer a grade 1. I'm looking forward to it. It's a 1.5 miles. Joel Rosario knows him very well. They're the dynamic duo. And seems a bit paceless on paper, but I'm sure someone will call an audible. Maybe even Godolphin because they have 2. The great thing about Farbridge is he's won grade 1s on the lead, from the Sword Dancer last year on a very firm turf. He's won grade 1s from last, showing a great turn of foot, i.e. the Joe Hirsch when he ran down Warlike Goddess. His versatility is top class, and we're all rather bullish, to be honest with you.
So very similar to you and your father in the UK, John and Thady Gosden were co-trainers essentially for so long. Thady, of course, the son of John. And they're listed over there officially as co-trainers, John and Thady. And it's my understanding that your father tried to engineer the same sort of arrangement with you in Equibase and the daily racing form and all that, and it didn't quite come to fruition. What's the biggest difference that you see now that your father's gone and it's just you? Because there has to be something that you kind of think, oh wow.
I mean, personally, there's a lot, to be honest with you. But in terms of professionally speaking, you have to step up. You have to step up. You have to full accountability and try to keep everything as much the same and encourage this team that nothing changes and keep moving forward and do everything you can to maintain the same standard and goals, to be honest with you. But I mean, trust me, it was great to have him on my side for many reasons. And typically when he would say something, no one would question it. Now I think I need a little bit of time to get to that status. But I mean, as long as the results speak for themselves, I think everyone would say that we're doing okay.
Does the pressure feel greater?
Unbearable sometimes, but it's okay. You just have to deliver. And winning takes care of a lot, unfortunately, especially in our industry, which is not right. And you could be doing a great job and your horse could be running well. You've been placing your horses well or doing a great job looking after them. But in this industry especially, we're very much judged by the final result. So there is an added emphasis on winning.
Did you guys downsize a little bit? Trying to move forward with the Clement stables. Has there been some downsizing in progress?
Yeah. So Dad was diagnosed with cancer for over 2 years, and it was a well-kept secret at first, and then it quickly no longer became a kept secret. But I mean, for a long time we've had this vision. We were just obviously hoping he would be able to do this chapter with me. Even before cancer, he tried to get us as a joint stable name, and I wanted selfishly to keep it in his name for as long as possible. The Hall of Fame thing got to him a little bit, which I thought was a bit tough. And so yeah, we used to have 3 divisions, and we downsized, knowing this unfortunate day might take place. So we only have 2 operations. So all the horses are at Saratoga or Belmont. Every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday morning I'm at Belmont. The other days I'm at Saratoga, so I split my time between the 2. And we have all the right key guys we've had, and it's no surprise. We've actually said no to some horses for a while now, trying to lower the numbers to make it more, accessible for us, particularly me. Because I think at some point there will be a number where your results won't be as good as they should be because it'd be too much. The best way to phrase it is I was fortunate to be an assistant for a very good trainer in England called Hugo Palmer. And his first year, I think he had 58 horses when I first worked for him. And it was a phenomenal experience. I loved it. After the Flying Start, I was fortunate to be an assistant in England in Newmarket. I learned a lot. And the more you travel, the more you see things, you learn. And it's funny because when he went from having a very successful year with I think 58 horses in my first season when I went there in November, He won 2 classics and he had a brilliant, spectacular season. And then I think the stable more than tripled the following year. But the results did not necessarily triple, because sometimes it just shows you that even though you might be capable of expanding, you need to give time for your team to expand as well. And I think it's a valuable life lesson is even if you have success, just be disciplined, because it takes a long time to get the team you want it to be.
You just mentioned that the pressure can be almost unbearable at times. I'm sure other trainers would say the same thing if they were as forthcoming as you are about their feelings. I'm just curious, specifically, what is it that can make that pressure feel so unbearable to a trainer?
So it's stupid, and it's very, very selfish and stupid, and maybe we're all slightly, egotistical and narcissistic in a sense. But I'll be honest with you. Had that Manhattan finish gone the other way, where integration nailed both Thoroughbred and Deterministic, I would have been in some foul mood more than likely that night. It would have been unbearable for both the team, my wife, the home. And as much as you try to keep results at home or at the races and, at the stable, not bring them home, it's inevitable, especially in our line of work. Because we held on, I had a great day. Spectacular. And, here we are. Would we still be doing this podcast now if the stable was not fortunate to cross the line first compared to finishing second in all these events? Unfortunately, I do think we're judged on wins, and running great is great, but no one kind of remember the horses who finished second in any race.
Miguel, your stable has been, with your father, very turf oriented. He did win with Tonalist in the Belmont a few years back. Are you okay with that mix of maybe 75% turf horses, 25% dirt, or would you like to get more dirt horses into the barn?
Yeah, I would love to have more dirt horses in the barn. So if anyone's watching and have any dirt horses, we will always have a stall for them. No, truthfully, it's a bit tough to say that. The truth is, when my dad first came over from Europe, he had the overwhelming majority of his stable was, from European ownership and clientele. So in that sense, inevitably they're going to be turf. And Dad was labeled first as, a fillies man, where he only had a lot of good fillies. The overwhelming majority of his first big races were won by fillies along on the grass. So it was turf, long fillies. Then he started winning with some of the colts, the Winchesters, the Geoponti area. So just turf, long, boys or girls. Then at one period of time, he had very good turf sprinters, the Disco Partner, the Pure Sensations, the Insummations. So he was a turf sprinter trainer. And it's funny, we went from 1.5 mile girls to 5.5, 6 furlongs boys on the grass. And then he was hoping that Tonus would break the stereotype a bit and we would be labeled as a classic dirt trainings outfits. I quite didn't catch on. But I mean, he always said, as long as you're labeled as something, means you're doing something well. So just take it, because you'd much rather be labeled as something, than not having a label, I suppose. What's
it like training for your mother?
She is by far my most difficult owner. She's very opinionated, and then the orders she gave, I feel very poor for Mr. Rosario, because she gave him like a 4.5 minute lecture about what she would like to see done in the race. Truth is, he gave it a remarkable ride, but I mean, it's fun having her as the owner now. So she's enjoying that aspect.
That's so awesome.
So a half hour after Deterministic wins the Fourstardave, your old friend Riley Mott, the son of trainer Bill Mott, wins the Saratoga Derby with World Appeal, his first Grade 1 win. And you posted quite a funny picture of you and Riley. It looked like you were probably 7 or 8 years old, bellied up to a kitchen counter. And Riley posted this, or at least he had this quote about you. And he said, "It's what he and I have dreamt about since we were literally in diapers together. We used to run around in our backyard pretending I was Cigar and he was Flagged Down. It was something we always really dreamt about. So it was pretty cool." That had to be a pretty satisfying feeling.
No, it was great. It's terrific for him. He's also been through a lot lately, so it's great. He's a very good trainer. And it's nice to see the younger guys doing well on the big stage. But it's terrific. It's terrific. And I think the following 30 minutes later, his father just missed a Grade 1 by a nose, because that would have been some story. But it's great. It's great. I mean, we did get our first Grade 1 and our second Grade 1 before him, but that's okay.
I've got one more question because I tapped Acacia this morning because I'm like, oh, give me something on Miguel. She said there's a fabulous story of you when you were little Miguel answering the phone and there may have been some royalty on the other end of the phone.
She's not supposed to share stories like that. That does happen. I think he's had many great owners over the years. And one of that always seems to strike everyone's interest the most is when he trains, in the States, I believe he's the only trainer ever for Her Majesty the Queen. And that was a great experience. That was a phenomenal experience. And he went to Ascot as well and spent time there and everything. And that's neat. That's neat. It's very tough to one up that, but we'll try our best one day, hopefully.
Did you hang up on the Queen?
No comment.
Did you go hello?
He was not supposed to share that story. There's some stories you can portray it like my husband's great. He works very hard. He's very intense. Many of those stories I'm okay with. But some stories that are not my best moments, they're not necessary.
I've got one more, and it's much of a comment, I guess, as it is a question. You pointed out the pressure and the difference between, in the Manhattan in particular, between winning or losing by a nose, right? I've done a lot of Olympics coverage for NBC, and when you see Olympic athletes on the podium, they're celebrating. Winning silver, winning bronze, like it's the greatest achievement, finishing second or third. I mean, maybe I guess if you're like a 1-20 favorite at one of those Olympic events and everybody thinks you're going to win and you don't, you sort of, force a smile while you're on the podium to collect your silver medal. But there's so much happiness in finishing second and third in the Olympics. And it always has struck me that it's not that way in horse racing.
Well, I actually would disagree. It's not that way in the States, but when you go to Royal Ascot,
yes,
you finish second or third, they're brought back, everyone celebrates, and everyone's happy, and you're given a podium, and there's an area, and the winner's enclosure is the first, second, and third. Dubai is similar in that regard as well. But, at the end of the day, here in the States, maybe it's the way we're raised or our culture, no one remembers second and third. If I can name you how many seconds and thirds we had in British Cups, that was only remembered for Pizza Bianca. Not Gioponti ran second to both Goldie Kova and Zenyatta. It's the way that your legacy is created by winning at the end of the day.
Your father experienced that at the Breeders' Cup.
Correct. Firsthand, when the whole crowd was cheering for Zenyatta and we got ran down late with Gioponti. Correct. But, the Saratoga training list title, I think the stable's fortunate enough to be fourth right now. It's by wins. It's not by top three finishes, and it's not by money. It's by number of wins. And it doesn't say if you exceed expectations or not, and you're not judged by did your horses outrun their odds or not. It's just by wins. So in this game, if you want to get to the top level, you have to find a way to deliver and to win. And it's either by placing your horses better or getting it right more about your analysis of them or whatever. But you have to find a way to win, unfortunately, because otherwise we're judged by success. And it's catch-22, but it's true. If you win, opportunities take place. And if you don't, you go a little bit lower on the totem pole, not just with your horses or your ownership or your clientele or your bloodstock, but with the jocks agents as well. You have to deliver. And I'm sure it's like that in any other profession as well.
It's Ricky Bobby. If you're not first, you're last. That's exactly what it is. And they do take pictures at Royal Ascot for second and third. And everyone, like you said, is so happy just to be there and be second or third.
True. But I think most of the leading trainers, I'm sure if you ask them, there's a big difference between winning and second.
Oh, yeah.
I bet Miguel never expected when he did this podcast that Ricky Bobby would be invoked. Right?
No, and same as the story about Her Majesty the Queen. So someone's going to get in trouble later.
All right. Well, Miguel, thank you. It's good to get to know you a little bit. You've got a great sense of humor and you got a lot of good laughs out of you. But congratulations on all your success. Keep it up. You're easy to root for. And thank you for being our Gainesway Guest of the Week.
Thank you very much for having me on.
Our Guest of the Week, Miguel Clement, was brought to you by Gainesway, the first yearlings by Gainesway's lightning fast Grade 1 sprinter Drain the Clock went through the ring Monday night at Saratoga. Right off the bat, the third yearling sold was a Drain the Clock colt who brought $175,000 from new owner Top Line Sales. His first yearling sold at Phasing Tipped in July for up to $125,000. Back when he was a racehorse, Drain the Clock, a son of McLean's Music, was the first horse to defeat champion sprinter Jackie's Warrior around one turn. That was in the Woody Stevens. And now as a stallion, well, the Saratoga colt sold for 17 and a half times Drain the Clock's stud fee. His July top seller, 12 and a half times the stud fee. You can do the math yourself. Drain the Clock stands at Gainesway for only $10,000. Be on the lookout for more of his progeny at this weekend's Phasing Tipped in New York bred sale and, of course, at Keeneland, September. Gainesway, power, passion, performance.
Drain the Clock will win and win by as much as he wants.
Drain the Clock will bound home the winner. Drain the Clock, Jackie's Warrior, Drain the Clock by a head.
$120,000, $100,000 to the back.
All right, so let's take a look at what's happening this weekend. The Sword Dancer is the feature race at Saratoga, and Colonial Downs will be hosting the old Arlington Million card with the Beverly D, the Arlington Million, and the Secretariat. And the story in the Sword Dancer is Charlie Apple will be bringing in two horses, and I don't quite understand. He has El Cordobas and Nation's Pride. I'm picking El Cordobas because this horse right now seems to be in pretty good form. Nation's Pride, since winning the Arlington Million last year, does have one win in the UAE, but for the most part, the form is really weak on that horse. Yet Buick takes Nation's Pride over El Cordobas, which makes me worry a little bit. And also, why wouldn't he have run Randy, you think one of these horses in the Arlington Million? Why run them against one another when he has that other option? The other story would be, can Christophe Clement won this race 3 of the last 4 times? Can his son Miguel, who you just heard from recently, can he win it again for the Clement family with Farbridge, who was definitely the best American horse in there?
Yeah, no idea why they're not running anything in the Arlington Million. Obviously, I haven't spoken to Charlie Appleby about it or anyone, Michael Banahan or anyone like that. Nation's Pride, sort of a Jekyll and Hyde kind of horse, which I think Fierceness is reverting back to that as well. But yeah, Nation's Pride's best races, the Manhattan last year, the Arlington Million last year, which he won. He's the defending champ. I mean, any of those races would be good enough, but probably his last 3 of his last 4. No. So he's a little bit of a puzzle right now.
Yeah, I don't understand why they're not running anything in the Million. Chad Brown's not running anything in the Million either. We'll get over there in just a moment. I honestly don't have any opinion whatsoever in this race. I would love Nation's Pride to win it. Otherwise, I'm going to root for Miguel and Farbridge.
All right. In the old Arlington Park races, the Beverly D is among the card at Colonial Downs on the 10th. We are recording this on a Tuesday, and the 9 to 5 morning line favorite in the race, Be Your Best, is cross-entered in the Boston Spa Stakes at Saratoga. Trainer Safi Joseph said unless weather is a factor in one place or another, he is going to run her in the Beverly D. So keep that in mind. And I looked up the weather reports for both Saratoga and Chicago for the weekend. Doesn't look like there's going to be any rain as a factor whatsoever. I think Safi Joseph's got the best horse in Be Your Best. She won the Gamely last time out. Nice score. She went 46 and 109 and 3 and just widened on the lead. As the comment says, drew away, kept to task. I think Beach Bomb for Graham Motion's probably got a pretty good shot. And then you've got Spanish Eyes, who I'm really interested in. I have so much respect for Brendan Walsh. This horse is making her 3rd start off at layoff, ran 2nd last time out in the Robert G. Dick Memorial at Delaware. I think she's on the improve. But I'll go with, I assume, the favorite, Be Your Best.
Yes, she needs no rain whatsoever. She likes to hear her feet rattle. So she is definitely the horse to beat. She's got pace. While she doesn't need the lead, she's drawn down on the inside, and there is pace aplenty in here. But on paper, she's the horse to beat. Don't sleep on Beach Bomb. Right. She's got pace as well, and she's kind of more of a need the lead type for trainer Graham Motion. She's 3 in here. And then who else was in there? Duvet Day. She might wake up down there. When she shows up, she can actually pop in a really good race. But she's 6 years old now. She might be a bit long in the tooth.
Yeah. Be Your Best is the horse to beat, but I'm a Beach Bomb fan. I thought last time, even though she got a yielding course and a very slow pace at Saratoga in the New York Stakes, I think she was just beginning to really round into her best form. So I'll take her at a little bit better price.
All right. Then the feature race is the Arlington Million, race 11 at Colonial Downs. And Mystic Dan, to me, is the interesting horse. Do you believe that he can handle the turf or not? The fact that Kenny McPeak is trying this horse on the turf, that speaks volumes. He doesn't make many mistakes. But Zoe, I know, talking to you again off camera, you said you really like Mystic Dan's one turf workout at Saratoga. Obviously, Kenny McPeak did too, because I don't think he would have be running there if he didn't like the work. It is available on XBTV. And what about the work? And tell us what you saw.
It's on First TV because we rebranded. Yes. It was terrific. Now, I didn't break any clocks. He went 102, but man, he just stretched his legs. He had a beautiful way of going. And I looked at Kenny. I'm like, Kenny, he looked really, really good. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to run him in the million. I'm like, well, go on with your bad self. I thought he looked terrific on the turf. Numbers wise, he obviously fits here, but I was very pleasantly surprised. If you'd have asked me going in, and I'd not seen him working on the grass, I'd have been like, oh, you're crazy. What are you talking about? But he's going to get some money from me because I loved how he skipped over.
It's a perfect spot for him. You don't have Nation's Pride in there. Obviously, we talked about him running in the Sword Dancer. Integration is going to be a legitimate favorite in there, I think. He just barely lost to Deterministic in his last race. But just to kind of point out that this race is there for the taking. The second choice in the morning line is a European import named Cairo.
Yep.
3 races back, Cairo was beaten 5.5 lengths in the Singspiel Stakes in Maidan by Nation's Pride. This race is wide open. Mystic Dan, if he can just duplicate his dirt form, he doesn't have to get better on the grass. If he can just duplicate the way he's been running on dirt and carry it over to the turf with an inside post position to save ground, which is what he likes, I think he could be the horse to beat in there.
And he's going to get the jump on Caro. Now, Caro got beat by the Foxes at Chester. The Foxes is a pretty darn good horse. So that horse is going to come running late. He does tend to run a little bit warm in his races, and it can be very, very warm there at Colonial as well, which may be something to, just take in, see how he handles that, because he won't have had any heat like that. He ran pretty good in Dubai, but when it's hot at Colonial, guys, it is hot. I'm not sure what the weather's going to be, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be quite toasty. But he's a good horse. And
it's surprising to see only one European shipper in here, and that is Cairo, who was 3rd last time out in the Group 1 Queen Anne. That's the good news. Bad news is the horse was 100-1 in that spot. So obviously the punters over at Ascot didn't think much of him in that race. So once again, the Arlington Million card at Colonial Downs will be one of the highlights of the weekend.
As you know, one of this podcast's key sponsors is the PHBA, the Pennsylvania Horse Breeders Association, and you probably know where this is going. Guess who was inducted Friday into the National Museum of Racing and Hall of Fame? That's right. It was another Smarty Party. Congratulations to Pennsylvania-bred Smarty Jones, who, of course, was 2004's champion 3-year-old by virtue of his wins in the Kentucky Derby and the Preakness. He was also the lone selection by Hall of Fame voters this year in the contemporary category. And how about a Saratoga daily double? Monday night at the Saratoga sale, a son of Justify, a half-brother to Breeders' Cup winner Caravel and multiple stakes winner Whitty, brought $1.4 million from Sheikh Fahad Al Thani of Qatar, who also owned Caravel and Whitty. And that colt is a registered Pennsylvania bred. To learn more about breeding your own Pennsylvania champion and maybe $1 million yearling, go to pabred.com or call 610-444-1050.
PA Bred, I think we've built a brand at this point.
It's excitement at every step.
Roses for Deborah just set a new track record.
On average, for the past decade, Pennsylvania paid over $28 million a year in Breeders' Awards, restricted races, and owner bonuses. Plus, PA breds shine on the world's biggest stage. Just 3 states have bred more Breeders' Cup winners. Learn more at pabred.com.
With some of the fullest fields in the country and quality racing year-round, there's never been a better time to reap the rewards of breeding and racing in Kentucky. Purse money in Kentucky is at an all-time high, as is average purse per race, outpacing California, Florida, and New York. Kentucky breds. Breed them, raise them, race them. We all win.
TDN Writers Room is also brought to you by Kentucky. We're not talking tourism or bourbon or baseball bats or college basketball. We're talking racing. And of course, as usual, we have plenty to talk about on that front. So we've already ticked off some of these. Sierra Leone wins the Whitney. Kill win from last to first. 6-1 upset in the test. World Beater beat an international cast in the Saratoga Derby at 11-1. Earned a berth at the Cox Plate in October should they choose to use it. Deterministic made it back-to-back with that win in the Fourstardave. Those were Saratoga's 4 Grade 1 stakes on Saturday. All 4 winners were Kentucky breds. And internationally, Coolmore Scandinavia won last Tuesday's Group 1 Goodwood Cup. Talk about a stayer. That was a 2-mile race. And Scandinavia not only was the only 3-year-old in that field, he was the only Kentucky bred. And looking ahead, the upcoming Kentucky Downs meet will feature purses of more than $40 million, maiden special weight purses up to $170,000, the highest in the country. Kentucky Downs dates August 28th to September 10th. Horsemen already know that. Kentucky breds, breed them, raise them, race them. We all win.
Well, Zoe, Del Mar did something that I think deserved a big round of applause. They, like NYRA, have essentially cut the CAW players out of the win pool by insisting that they will not take their bets after 2 minutes to post. Therefore, they can't really bet because the way their system works is that they have to have the very last look at the pool, and to have anything but the last look with 2 minutes out, they won't go into that. That still means they'll bet their brains out in the pick 4s and the pick 3s and the tries and the exactas. But it's a cosmetic change. It's a Band-Aid, putting a Band-Aid on a problem. But when we had Labrado Labrosio on last week, we talked about his horse Stormy Blues. Horse went into the gate in the Bing Crosby at 45-1. Crossed the wire at 18-1 in that spot. So they had to do something. And the reason Zoe, I'm leaving it up to you. Tell your bosses at Santa Anita to do the same thing.
I'll be right on it. Okay. Yeah, it's great. I mean, like everybody else, I like to see 5-1. And if I'm betting on a horse at 5-1, I would like to get paid 5-1. Personally, I'd like us all to have fixed odds. You know, you can take the price or not take the price. It can drift out or drift in, or you say you'll take the 5-1. So, I mean, I'd love to see that, if I'm being totally honest.
Yeah, I like the way you described it, Bill. It's a cosmetic change, really, is what it is. It's putting a Band-Aid on the problem. It's like going to the doctor, with a horribly sore knee, and the doctor gives you a painkiller and doesn't do anything about, what's causing the knee to be sore to begin with, right? I got no problem with the CAW guys getting rebates. That's what, airlines, hotels, that's what they do with their best customers. That's okay. I got no problem with these computer programs. If you can build a better mousetrap that can handicap exceptionally well, great, go for it. You deserve to be able to win. But the problem is, and I don't know how you can put the spilled milk back in the jug at this point, is the access that they've gotten, computer input directly into the pools that other horse players don't get. It's a built-in advantage, and that is the primary problem. Now, is it aggravating to somebody who bets a horse at 7-2 because they think that's the value, and then the race is over and they look up on the board and the horse is 8-5, 7-5? Yeah, it can be frustrating, but I don't think about that quite the same way as a lot of other people do. And here's why. It's pari-mutuels. If the odds on one horse go down, the odds on the other horses go up. So it works the other way too. You can bet on a horse that you love at 6-1 and the race is over and he wins and you're celebrating and you look on the board and he's 9-1. Hey, look at that. I got a bonus, right? It doesn't always, all the horses' odds don't drop. The ones that drop, the other ones go up. So I think people put a little too much emphasis on this. I think it's really cosmetic as much as anything else. It's not a bad thing. I agree with you. Other tracks should do it as well. And I have one other point. This has gotten to be, from all the things I've read, people that know a whole lot more about this than I do. They have the CAWs, a huge oversized influence on the mutual pools across America. Percentage of money bet, it's just staggering, right? I think you're kidding yourself if the racetracks that have been catering to these CAWs don't reach out to the CAW guys that are their gigantic best customers and say, look, we hate to do this, but we got to do it. We got to shut you out of the win pool at 2 minutes to post. But I tell you what, to make it up to you, we're going to bump up your rebate a little bit to make up for the lost money in the win pool or something like that. You don't just slap your best customers in the face and say, hey, deal with it. So I got a lot of opinions on that, but I do think it's good to lessen the frustration on some of the horse players. And if this is one good way to do it, then maybe every track should do it.
And the Saratoga Fasig-Tipton sale kicked off on Monday night. We are recording this on Tuesday afternoon. So we don't have the results in right now. We can't talk about how the sale went on the second night or the final figures, but it was just very, very strong sale to start off. First of all, Bobby Flay bred, a horse bred by Bobby Flay by Gunrunner was the leading money getter at 2.7 million. And this shows you this is how close the sale was to last year. This year, the gross was 39.9 million. Last year was 38.9. This year, the average was 519,000. Last year, the average was 505. Also thought it was interesting that 3 flight lines sold last night. They were all fillies. And they got 1.1 million to West Point, who of course was in on the flight line ownership. Another one for 600,000 to Live Oak Plantation. Another one for 625,000 to Chad Schumer. Zoe, you keep a close eye on these things. What were some of your takeaways from the sale?
It was complete madness there last night. I've never seen so many people trying to get into that Fasig-Tipton Pavilion. Now, on the first night, obviously we're recording this today on Tuesday. We'll have the second night tonight. But the first night is always a little bit, I don't want to say tourist night, but people come and watch. And we want people to come and watch. We want people to see what happens and fall in love with the game. Obviously, Joe Blow walking in off the street all dressed up isn't going to put his hand up and suddenly buy one. But it was fabulous to see the energy in the pavilion. And the one thing that I did take away from it, and it's going to be fireworks tonight, by the time most people listen to this, the Tuesday night sale will be over and there's going to be millions and millions of dollars spent there. But the big groups walking around, it seems like the groups teaming up are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So you'll have someone looking at a horse and they'll have 15 people around them. You won't even see the horse because you've got all these people looking at one horse and they're all teaming up to buy these horses, which is great for the industry. The stock market is up. There's a great energy. The sale last night was terrific. Now the big guns are coming tonight. You've got the half to journalism out of Moppetism. She's going to turn a lot of heads. There's some Into Mischief Colts, Flightline. There's going to be big bucks tonight. I mean, the first $1 million horse through the ring was Hip 13. The last horse through the ring last night also made $1 million. So it was terrific last night, but tonight, Tuesday night, is going to be Doolally Tap. There's going to be an awful lot of money spent. I think I'm just going to go to the bar and buy a drink. It'll be the only thing I can afford.
The bar, there's a key word there. I'm not a sales guy. I'm a racing guy. Zoe can wear both hats. I can only fit one hat. I don't know. I know very little about sales, but I was there at the 2004 Saratoga sale, and you talk about a party.
Yep.
Not just inside the pavilion. I mean, that's where the business is being done. It's outside at all the tables and the bars. Oh my God, it was a blast. Yeah. I had such a fun time going there. I was with my wife, and our daughter Hallie had just turned 2. And so we decided at one point she needs to go in and see some horses. So I carry her into the pavilion. She's in my arms. I'm sitting at the very back, and there's a horse in the ring, and they're bidding and bidding and bidding. It was hundreds of thousands of dollars. And my daughter's like, "Oh, look, a horsey." and the bid spotter's like pointing at me. I'm like, no, that's her. It's not me. I almost walked away bankrupt, but it was a blast. It was an absolute blast.
Yeah, it was a very good sale last night. Just 11 horses not sold, which is huge. The RNA rate, I think, was 12.5%. It is a select sale, and we're probably going to be talking about some fireworks next week, honestly. We want to remind you as well that the TDN Writers Room is brought to you by First TV. This week's First TV of the week is Mindframe. Mike Rapoli tweeted yesterday that he is willing to concede that Fierceness may not be the best horse in the country because Mindframe is. How about that? Here he is on the outside of Classicist, working 5 furlongs at Saratoga on Saturday in 101 and 4. Trainer Todd Pletcher said he will make his next start in the August 31 Jockey Club Gold Cup.
Be a smarter better with First TV, the best horses, with thousands of exclusive morning workouts. All at your fingertips and delivered right into your inbox. Everything you need to be informed. Be smart. Bet smart. With First TV. All the thrills. Fraction of the bills. Experience the power of the partnership. Change your life, make new friends, and compete at the highest level of thoroughbred racing. West Point Thoroughbreds, the gold standard in racing partnerships. Visit westpointtb.com.
And the TDN Writers Room, brought to you by West Point Thoroughbreds. Needless to say, it was a big week for West Point and partners at Saratoga, thanks to Ewing's victory Saturday in the Saratoga Special. Son of Nick's Go is now 2 for 2 for trainer Mark Cassie and jockey Jose Ortiz, owned by West Point DJ Stable and Kenneth Fryrick. Ewing's talent scout back in April OBS was bloodstock agent David Ngordo, who was back on the hunt for West Point and partners this week, the Fasington Saratoga Select Yearling Sale. You can keep tabs on West Point's latest recruits yourself. Just go to www.westpointtb.com.
Well, that's a wrap on this week's edition of the Thoroughbred Daily News Writers Room podcast presented by Keeneland. I want to thank my co-hosts Randy Moss and Zoe Cadman. I want to thank Miguel Clement, our Gainesway guest of the week. Also, our editors and producers who work so hard behind the scenes to make this podcast look good each week. That's Sue Finley, Katie Petruniak, Anthony LaRocca, and Aaliyah LaRocca. Going to be another great weekend of racing. Enjoy, everybody, and we'll see you next week.